Please welcome the Vice President of Developer Experience at AWS, Adam Seligman.
Hello, everybody. Hey, welcome. Hopefully everybody is awake this Thursday afternoon. Hi, everybody. I'm Adam Seligman. Thanks so much for joining me here. I'm the Vice President of Developer Experience, and the place I wanted to start is something very special and close to my heart, which is community. It's been a community celebration this week, wouldn't you say? Seeing old friends and connections. I want to start with our community of heroes and community builders and user group leaders. There are nearly 270 AWS heroes in nearly 60 countries and 2,000 community builders around the world. And they're in categories like machine learning, developer tools, and data. And this number of categories and community builders keeps growing. And I'd also like to thank our Cloud Club captains. These are the student leaders and innovators on campus. There are more than 110 clubs around the world and 50,000 members globally. I had dinner with a few of them last night from Nepal and Ethiopia. Amazing the work that they're doing around the world, growing the AWS community and sharing new technology. It's your passion and this dedication to the community that just motivates us and inspires us. And what makes this AWS ecosystem so special, and it's so great to be here. So I want to start by thanking every developer in our ecosystem. Now, the theme of the talk today is really about empowering developers. Because being a developer is like one of the best jobs on earth. It's an extraordinary role. You ship code, you sort of drive innovation for your company. You're harnessing the power of the cloud, and it's all about delighting end users. But it's also a hard job. You have to write code, write documentation, handle a lot of tedious tasks, and sometimes you face urgent issues, in the middle of the night. You get an alert, you get a page, and you need to solve problems fast. And these can be complex issues. And so it could drive a lot of chaos in the workday, right? Do you feel that sometimes? Okay, if nobody has ever had a late night page, I don't wish that on you, and make sure you're in good position to take care of those. So ultimately, I think developers want to spend their time innovating and working on things that spark their passion. So our approach here at AWS is to be your partner on this journey. We want to innovate every day and bring you those secure, awesome, innovative cloud tools and services. That security is the first thing. It's non-negotiable. I think you'll hear that from us over and over again. But then from there, we continue to innovate to sort of enhance those core cloud services and tools and keep bringing you new technology, constantly bringing you new technology, and especially for you as developers to sort of streamline your workflow and empower you to focus on the really creative parts of being a developer. It's kind of the fulfilling parts for me. And what's exciting right now is we're at this moment where generative AI can start reducing friction, accelerate tasks, and make coding actually even accessible to more people, which is a really neat growth of our ecosystem. Now, just like we democratized cloud computing, I think AWS is now enabling companies, your companies, across all different industries and regions to leap forward using generative AI assistance and putting generative AI in your applications. And so I think it gets us to this moment, which is kind of the third thing, which is that developers will soon work very differently than they work today. And it's because of this emerging technologies. So it's a little unsettling, but I want to show you how AWS is equipping developers to thrive in sort of this evolving landscape and give you the resources and guidance and the great community that helps bring us all together so we can all navigate this change together. Your role as developer is an incredibly important one. It's incredibly vital to your companies. It's not going away, and you're going to be able to build amazing things. And that's why I wanted to share this message. I want everyone here and everyone watching online to be fearless. You're going to be exploring all these new possibilities of the future, and AWS is going to be right here with you. You're going to push boundaries, tackle new problems, and turn this disruptive change that we're in, right? You feel the disruptive change with all this generative AI stuff, but turn it into opportunity for growth and more innovation. Okay, so this is a developer-focused talk. So we're going to start and anchor and spend our time focusing on things that developers care about the most. So we're going to start with serverless. We're going to cover front-end and full-stack applications. We're going to talk about developer tools and productivity. And we're going to talk about DevOps. And over the past year, we've been really thinking about how we can bring more efficiency to your daily workflows by removing friction points. And you're going to see this throughout the whole talk. Removing friction points so you can do your best week. And I think you've seen some of the launches over the week that sort of pay this off. Now, all of these launches, really what helps us make them great is your feedback, community feedback. We take it super seriously. We don't always like to hear it because, our product managers and engineers think they built the perfect thing. But when you go to touch it, you discover it's going to work a little differently than you expected. And you give us that feedback. So one place we continue to innovate is 10 years of AWS serverless compute. Serverless is like such a transformative capability. When we launched it 10 years ago, our vision was a future where developers could sort of just write business logic and remove as much of the other cruft as possible of managing servers. So we're committed and we're continue to innovate and lead in this space. And I'm really excited that today, over 1.5 million customers use AWS Lambda every month. And they process, this is an amazing number, tens of trillions of requests each month. And actually, during Prime Day, because Amazon is a customer of AWS, during Prime Day, there were 1.3 trillion invocations of Lambda during Prime Day this year in 2024. It's a pretty big number. So functions now scale up faster in response to unpredictable traffic. And there's a whole sets of other innovations, again, broadly across the serverless category, to make it easier for developers to build applications more efficiently and minimize the coding work, offload that infrastructure task, and really focus on that great business logic and drive towards higher performance, resilience, and security. So you see some of the updates here that are pretty exciting. New runtimes for Python 3.13, Node.js 22, features like Lambda Snap Start for Python and .NET to reduce cold start time. Did everybody see Aurora Serverless v2 with support scaling to 0? Did you see that this week? Pretty cool. And Amplify AI Kit, which we'll cover a little later in this presentation. API custom domain for private endpoints, AppSync events, and other new Lambda enhancements that we'll talk about for developer tools so that you can go right in the console to your IDE and have a streamlined flow. I think I'll show you that. You want a demo? Come on. Yeah, it's demo time. Awesome. OK, so here, this is the AWS console. So I'll go in and say create a new Lambda function. I give it a name. I pick my runtime. In this case, I'll pick Python. And so when I hit create function, the next thing you're going to see is something that's kind of cool. We have updated the console to include an inline IDE based on VS Code. You see it has queue auto completion there. It will create a quick scaffold template for me so I can start working right away. And then look at that, nice helpful utilities like deploy and also test, including creating new test events right there in line. So it's really easy to get started, setting up a new Lambda function. I can see my results. So that's pretty nice. It has VS Code, so there's a lot of the VS Code features right there. And then from there, there's a feature that you can hit to actually download this and then bridge it into your IDE. So you go here and you hit Lambda download. You see the zip file. And so the zip file, you can open, the files you can open in VS Code. And you get the source for your function, but you also get the SAM template, which is really nice. You get the IC also for this Lambda. And then there's some other utilities in here that are pretty cool. So this application builder functionality, again, lets you do local tests, deployments, cloud tests, pass in parameters and stuff for your payloads for your tests. So again, just really trying to make it easy. They also, which I appreciated, if you install the toolkit, there's a new getting started experiences to get you up and running with all the serverless tooling in VS Code. So if you haven't used it before, it's a great way to start. So we are fully committed to serverless. We want your feedback, and we want to make serverless easier to use, easier for your teams to use, so you can continue to invest in serverless and push ahead modernizing and building new applications. And we're not the only ones excited about serverless. Customers like Capital One are openly promoting their use of serverless technology. And they highlight benefits like enhanced agility and faster innovation, not only improving their operational efficiency. This photo was taken by me in the Muni, the subway in San Francisco, when I was out on one weekend. And Capital One is this amazing advertisement promoting their serverless work. Very cool. So beyond serverless, there are other core capabilities that we're focused on that I wanted to share with you. And the next area I wanted to talk about was building full-stack applications. So we launched AWS Amplify years ago to meet the needs of front-end and full-stack developers, or anyone that wants to go fast building front-end applications and not spend all of their time in the cloud. You can quickly build, deploy, and host full-stack, cloud-connected web and mobile apps on AWS with Amplify. And Amplify is neat. It streamlines the application development by helping you with your front-end code, simplifying all the back-end business logic, and extracting away a lot of complexity. So front-end developers can easily build full-stack applications, and features like data and identity make that easy. And then also get the flexibility to scale their applications using fully managed AWS services and support millions of users. Now, earlier this year, we launched Amplify Gen 2. Amplify Gen 2 is a code-first experience that allows developers to just work in client-side TypeScript and build full-stack applications. So you can use your TypeScript skills, but actually build full-stack cloud applications. And you get real-time APIs backed by a database, easy authentication flows, deploy these server-side applications, Next.js applications, add secure file storage backed by S3, and really build delightful front-end applications. But we also, in this time of generative AI, wanted to make it easier to incorporate generative AI capabilities in your apps. So we get the speed of Amplify Gen 2, but make it easy to bring in generative AI features. So normally it's actually kind of hard because it's sort of challenging because the generative AI things are like multiple development steps. You have to connect it to your front-end UI. And even for like a regular use case, a standard use case, like a review or summarization or something, you end up stitching together a lot of different components, and there are a lot of steps. So to do this right, you're talking about multiple languages, multiple environments. You might even be bouncing out of your IDE. And it ends up to be a pretty disjointed and error-prone process. And it just slows you down. So I'm excited to announce that we recently announced new capabilities in Amplify Gen 2, in GA, that allow front-end and full-stack developers to build rich AI-powered applications using TypeScript, using Amplify Gen 2, without requiring deep cloud or AI expertise. So super excited to bring up my friend and colleague, Ali Spittle, Senior Manager of Developer Advocacy, who's going to walk us through Amplify Gen 2. And let's give a big hand for Ali. You probably know her from the Amplify community.
Thanks, Adam. Building on top of the second generation of Amplify is the Amplify AI Kit, built on top of Amazon Bedrock. It's the fastest way for front-end and full-stack developers to build web apps with generative AI, such as chat conversational search and summarization to their apps without any prior machine learning experience. Let's take a look at all of these Gen AI capabilities in action. Every single demo today is going to be a pet grooming salon theme. I want to show how easy it is to add Gen AI to your app. My use case is adding a user interface so that I can book pet grooming appointments without a bunch of forms. I'll just be able to chat in natural language to input my dog Blair's information and schedule an appointment. The first feature I'm going to build is a simple one, summarizing the contents of the chat conversation to be the title of the chat. So first, I'm going to add a few lines of TypeScript code to connect to Amazon Bedrock. I'm going to choose my AI model, in this case, Claude 3.5 Sonnet, and add a system prompt. I'll also specify my arguments and my return type. Conversations, which I'm going to use to build out the data for the chat interface, will allow me to create a customized chat with an LLM. To go back really quickly, this is what a data model looks like in Amplify Gen 2. So I'm going to create an appointment model for each of the appointments I have available at my grooming salon. Each one will also have authorization, so only authenticated users can sign up for an appointment. I am going to create a conversation route. So again, specifying that I want to use Claude 3.5 Sonnet and having a system prompt. It's a friendly pet groomer that really likes colorful pets who have nail polish. I'm going to add a tool as well. So this is going to allow the LLM to directly query DynamoDB. LLMs are really great for having a ton of information. However, they're not up to date with things like the weather or what appointments are currently available. So whenever somebody asks for an appointment, we want to actually query my database instead of asking the LLM directly. So the LLM will know when to use the tool versus when to use the standard LLM. I'm going to build a conversational user interface using the AI conversation component. It's fully customizable, so you can make it look exactly like your brand. So I'm going to allow attachments so I can upload pictures of my dog. I'll also render my conversation text on the page whenever a new conversation starts using Markdown. I want to rename the conversation using that generation route that I made. So I'll summarize the messages in the chat to come up with that name of the chat. This is what the chat UI looks like in action. So I'll upload a picture of Blair, my dog, and the pet groomer will have some suggestions for what to do with her hair. I want to break out of the standard text-based chatbot. So when users ask about appointment times, there's going to be a user interface component returned that has different buttons that I can select for the different appointment times. And I have some custom styling on those as well. And whenever the list appointment tool is used, I want to display the appointments that come back using those buttons. So this is what this will look like. Again, I'll upload the picture of Blair, and I'll get some suggestions for fun hairstyles. And then I'll have the times that I can book using the buttons. And the LLM did that for me. Once I'm ready to go to prod, I'll push my Fullstack app to production by just running a git push. My backend resources will be automatically provisioned, and my frontend will be hosted globally. Building generative AI apps got a whole lot easier with Amplify AI Kit. It makes the full-stack provisioning simple and fits the development paradigm that front-end developers are much comfortable with. These apps are production-ready and fully integrated with the rest of AWS. Back to you, Adam.
All right, that is awesome. I love Amplify Gen 2. I hope you all give it a shot. It's pretty exciting, and we put a lot of time and care into the sort of tactile DX flow, so I hope you'll check it out. OK, so we covered some serverless innovation. We covered some front end and full stack. And now I want to shift to talk about developer productivity, if that's OK. It turns out that developer productivity is, it's not just about writing lines of code. Developers tell us, we see this in studies, they say they don't really get enough time to write code because they have to do lots of other things. This stat was from a software.com study in 2022 that said developers only get to spend an hour a day, 5 hours a week writing code. Now, generative AI assistants have made writing that code a little easier by kind of like supercharged autocomplete and making developers' lives easier. But that's only some of the coding tasks. And the vast majority of heavy lifting is still all this other stuff that's left to the developer. The majority of your time is consumed with these tedious tasks like learning a new code base, writing documentation, reviewing somebody else's documentation, testing, writing tests, finding coverage gaps in tests, managing deployments, issues, finding and fixing vulnerabilities, upgrades sometimes we don't always get to, and those like big modernization projects of legacy applications that are not easy. So at AWS, we saw an opportunity to transform the entire work that software developers do by removing much of the mundane work and enabling all of you to tackle bigger challenges. And so Amazon Q Developer is the product that we've been focused on, that we introduced last year and GA'd in April, which helps you with all of your development tasks. So Q is pretty neat. It's got best-in-class security scanning and vulnerability detection and remediation capabilities that outperform leading publicly benchmarkable tools on detection across most of the popular programming languages. It has the highest known acceptance rate of any multi-line coding tool that's been disclosed publicly, which is pretty exciting, so we feel like we've got a world-class product there. It speeds up a variety of software development tasks, like specific tasks you have to do, by up to 80% or more. We've been testing this on my team, and sometimes we're really surprised at the capabilities. And Q is capable of now of taking on other tasks with autonomous agents that complete complex plans and multi-step, multi-file diffs that are pretty exciting, like modernizing a legacy application or adding a feature. So today, Q is transforming how developers work with autonomous agents. Like it's a pretty bold thing to say. And I know we're at the early days of agentic development. And these agents can leverage their knowledge of API systems and best practices, and are starting to independently complete tasks like adding features and refactoring code. So they're acting as expert assistants, and they amplify your productivity. But remember, right now, they're driven by your high-level requirements, your feedback, and keep you informed during the process. So the benefits of these agents are pretty immense, and they're going to enable faster experimentation and help you get to market faster, and hopefully get you better code quality and less friction. And we're continually improving and refining these agents to make them better for you. They span the whole workflow. You see that left to right? From planning to coding, all the way through testing, securing, all the way to transformation. So if you're new to a project, one of the things you'll discover, I think, is what is going on here? Look at all this code that I have to learn and understand what's going on. It might be a workload that's been running for years, but now you've been asked to add new features to it. So in my experience, you could spend a lot of time just trying to make sense of what's been given to you and explore and learn on your own. Now what's cool is right now today, Q is an expert that you can chat with in your IDE. And instead of spending hours exploring old code, you can simply ask Q questions about the code base. And it has a deep understanding of AWS and your code base and well-architected practices and solution implementations that we've published. So you'll receive, with this capability, summarized explanations about your code, its architecture, the structure, what the functions do, the libraries it use, all through chat. So when you're learning new technology or architecting something, Q can help you go faster also. And this gets to the part of writing code and building new capabilities. And I mentioned that Q is the highest reported code acceptance rate of any coding assistant that suggests multi-line code. And when you want help building a new feature or refactoring code, Q has developer agents that can work with you to understand your code base, create an implementation plan. That plan might include diffs spanning multiple files, and then with your approval and maybe your suggested modifications, execute all those code changes in just minutes. I don't know if you've tried this, but you literally just hit the /dev feature in the Q chat panel in your IDE, and you give it a brief description of the task you want to accomplish and the issue you want to resolve. And Q will come up with a plan. It uses a variety of high-performance models from Bedrock behind the scenes, and will pick the best model for the job, come up with a plan, get feedback from you, and then implement it autonomously. So that's cool for like the agentic targeted feature development, but sometimes you're looking at code and you want to make an upgrade in line, make some modification in line. So Q added another feature where you can highlight code, hit Command-I, the squiggly one and I on your Mac, and just give it a quick sort of inline chat of the question or the change you're trying to make, and then right in line in the code file, it'll show you a diff, which is really neat. And what we've heard from our developer community is they really like that inline flow and that tactile experience. We have enterprise offerings. You get custom recommendations that are tailored just for your specific code base, your internal SDKs, APIs, and libraries, so that you can go faster and, again, maybe enforce code standards or get to higher code quality across your business. OK, but that's the coding part. And there are many more steps, like writing tests. Tests are critical to have quality code and reliable applications and make sure they're maintainable over time. I don't know about you, but I don't spend a lot of time writing tests. I've never liked it. I don't know if you love it, but my code was probably always weaker because of it. It's kind of boring. It's kind of time-consuming. Sometimes I don't really know the test frameworks in a different language that I'm less familiar with. So it's often overlooked, right? Do we agree? Testing, there's not enough testing out there. Quality coverage, yeah. OK. So we announced a new feature in Q Developer for automating the process of developing, writing, and applying unit tests. You use the /test command in Q, and Q will go off and initiate. It will use its knowledge of the project, generate tests, add them to your project, so you have more reliable code. It's really fast, and it's pretty neat. I think you're going to love it, and you can even give it feedback if you want the test to work differently, or there are different cases that you want to cover. It's a big time saver. I hope you all try the /test feature, because that's pretty exciting. And then the next stop on our subway train to software development is security scanning and remediation. So finding and remediating security vulnerabilities is a pretty tedious and time-consuming process for developers. There's a lot of manual work going through a code base. You might have to understand pretty complex security rules you might not be an expert in. And then you got to implement fixes, but not break your app and break the functionality. So Q today provides built-in security scanning with remediation for even hard-to-detect vulnerabilities right in your IDE. You can run the security scanner to look for vulnerabilities, and Q will actually give you code recommendations also of how to fix it, which is really cool. So you can implement the fix pretty safely and quickly. So that's pretty exciting. But then once we've got the code written and we've got our test coverage, right, this other part, we have to write documentation. Nobody likes getting code that isn't clear or doesn't have good documentation. I've seen that when I inherited some code base from somewhere else and I didn't know which way was up. Code bases can be kind of complex. They can be a mix of technologies like hybrid and cloud native. They can be written in a language I'm not super familiar with. And there might be different tools for testing and stuff. So Q is really neat because this new Q documentation feature /doc will immediately start writing documentation for your code. It'll ask feedback from you if you want to make changes to the documentation. It'll tell you about the design and constraints and dependencies. It's a really great feature. We've gotten great feedback on that so far. So please be sure to try the /doc feature in Q. OK, so another thing that turns out to be a big time sink for developers is code reviews. The process of a code review is it's a critical checkpoint in the lifecycle of building applications. It's this last chance to check that you're happy with the update before you deploy. But it's a pretty manual process because it's a lot of back and forth. You have to clearly articulate what's going on in your code, and then the person on the other side, the reviewer, has to really understand it and make sure their questions are answered and go back and forth. So it's pretty dependent on both the quality of the code review and maybe a predictable format of the code review and the reviewer's ability to understand it. So Q has a new feature we announced earlier this week, a software development agent of Q that streamlines the code review process. It automatically provides comments on code, flags suspicious code patterns, and even assesses deployment risks and will suggest feature flags, which is pretty cool. This is pretty cool. You hit the /review command right in your IDE, and it'll start the process of drafting a code review for you. And it'll give you comments and suggested resolutions and patches. And again, this is not to replace the code review process in that human checkpoint. It's to help make it flow better. Again, help the author craft something that's more standard and complete, and then help the reviewer pick something up that is easier to understand. Again, we're trying to help you across the whole software development lifecycle. It's the theme that I want to share with you, so you think more broadly about expert assistance. OK, but rather than just talking about it, what I thought we would do is bring somebody out to give you a great demo of this functionality. So please invite up Brooke Jameson, Senior Developer Advocate, my colleague. Brooke, take us through a demo, please.
Thanks, Adam. When I inherited this pet grooming duration predictor project, it immediately resonated with me. As a cat owner, particularly of Elsie, who proudly sports a warning star next to her name at our vet's office, I understand the chaos and extra time that pet behavior can bring to grooming appointments. Let me show you how I got up to speed with this serverless application using Amazon Q Developer. First, I used the @workspace command to get a comprehensive explanation of the project. While the technical breakdown is useful, I really prefer asking Q to explain my project to a 12-year-old computer science student. This is a bit of a secret menu item, and it breaks down complex concepts into approachable chunks, perfect for when you're diving into a new code base. It explained our prediction system as a magic calculator that considers factors like pet size, fur amount, and behavior, a polite way of addressing my cat's unique personality. Now let's focus on 3 key areas where Amazon Q Developer really shines. One of the biggest hurdles in this project was the lack of documentation. Using the doc command in Amazon Q Developer, I generated a README file that covers all of the things like the repository structure, the project overview and key features, installation and deployment instructions, API endpoints with examples, troubleshooting tips, and a visual diagram of the system's data flow. This README not only helps me understand the project better, but makes it easier for other developers to contribute. It even includes details about our API endpoints, the new support for custom domain names for private REST APIs in API Gateway is a recent launch that will help you manage private APIs with user-friendly DNS names. Next, in our project, I used the review command for an automated code review. This feature helps identify and fix security issues, code quality issues, and misconfigurations. In our case, it found 1 high-risk issue and 3 low-risk issues. Amazon Q Developer provided context for each issue and suggested fixes, which I could easily accept or modify. Finally, my least favorite part of development, writing unit tests. Using the /test command, I asked Amazon Q Developer to add duration calculator tests. It generated unit tests for 5 key functions. So calculate base duration, apply size adjustment, apply coat adjustment, apply behavior adjustment, and calculate total duration. These tests cover the core functionality of our duration calculator, ensuring our predictions remain accurate as we continue development, even for challenging pets like Elsie. Wrapping up, Amazon Q Developer has transformed how I approach new projects. It's not just about writing code. It's about creating understandable, maintainable, and reliable software, so I can be a better teammate too. By using these tools for documentation, code review, and testing, developers can focus on what we do best, solving problems and building great software, even when those problems involve predicting grooming times for rowdy pets. Back to you, Adam. Thanks.
All right. Brooke got 10 points for getting their cat, into the demo. And I saw that apply behavior modification routine. I wish I had that at home. That would be awesome. OK, so I think we've covered a bunch of agent capabilities of Q that will accelerate development. I think it's pretty cool. But there's more to it. Your work isn't limited to just the IDE, right? So we wanted to make Q helpful to you by making it available in the places where you do all this other work, all this other DevOps work. And one of the most common places development teams collaborate is GitLab. So I think everybody saw the announcement earlier in the week that we're collaborating with GitLab to integrate Amazon Q Developer's generative AI capabilities right into GitLab's popular enterprise DevSecOps platform to accelerate team productivity and development velocity. We're super excited about this. We have a very special guest to bring out. So I'd like to bring out Sabrina Farmer. Sabrina is the Chief Technology Officer at GitLab. And I'd also like to bring out Kyle Seaman, Amazon Q Developer Senior Product Manager, to come out and tell us more about this really cool integration. Hi, Sabrina.
Thanks, Adam. At GitLab, we are as obsessed with our customers as AWS and work to bring them the best technology to help them build their software efficiently and safely. That is why I'm so excited about the GitLab Duo and Amazon Q integration. Look, we all spend countless hours switching from one tool to another, fixing bugs, and rewriting or refactoring code. And I've seen stats that claim that developers spend less than 21% of their time coding. Our work with AWS has been centered on one idea. What can we do to give developers more time to do what they love? Coding. The fact is, many teams often work across various tools, technologies, and processes to ensure code quality, security, and best practices. And as project scope and complexity grow, it can create a fragmented software development experience. GitLab Duo and Amazon Q transform software development by integrating powerful AI agents directly into your daily workflows. Instead of switching between multiple tools, you can now accelerate complex multi-step tasks within GitLab's platform. And this integrated offering delivers AI-driven collaboration, streamlined software development, and accelerated code delivery, and enhanced security across the entire software development lifecycle. The GitLab Duo and Amazon Q integration brings together the most comprehensive DevSecOps platform and the power of Amazon Q's autonomous agents to help developers be even more productive when using GitLab and AWS. Our solution provides developers with a seamless experience, helping teams ship more secure software faster. Using GitLab Duo, the developer can delegate issues from Amazon Q's agents using quick actions. And this enables them to maximize quality and security, build new features, and get feedback with the AI-assisted code reviews. The agents can also create and execute the unit test and transform enterprise workloads. GitLab's unified data store gives Amazon Q's project context, which will accelerate and automate the end-to-end development workflows. And this streamlines complex toolchain integrations that are typically required for collaboration across engineering teams. Let's take a look at how GitLab Duo and Amazon Q can help convert an idea into a merge request starting from a GitLab issue. And Kyle's going to show how Vetco, small team of developers who are tackling a long backlog of features to enhance their customers' experience.
Awesome, thanks. So here's our app. It's a nice little web app. It helps us with both appointment scheduling and our history. And basically, what we have is we had this idea, which is, what if we could take this history with all this rich context on the pet visits and how we can personalize it? And we think, an LLM summary would be pretty cool. We're the front-end team. We need back-end team help. So we start where most teams do, and we file an issue in our toolchain, in this case, GitLab. So we'll do our job. We'll put our idea down, generate me an API summary using Bedrock. I'll add some specs, be friendly, help me about treatment, just what you would expect. But now, instead of it just being an idea that sits on our backlog, the front-end team can take this and using this new integrated /Q experience, so directly from GitLab, /Q dev on the comment, once we add that, that's sending both the issue context and all the GitLab project context to the Q software development agent. And in a few minutes, we get back a merge request. So let's take a look. We can see here, most importantly, this isn't anything special. It's running the same pipelines that you've already set up for your project, where you've put your time into GitLab. And we can see there's been changes. Q can update multiple files and create new ones as necessary. Our Bedrock manager has the prompt. It has the Bedrock API. And you can see there's been a new generate summary added to an existing file. But what's really cool is it looks at the project context here. And instead of it being generic tests, it's gone ahead and added behave tests, making 3 new test cases that match the styling of the previous project. But it's not done yet. Just like working with anyone on your team, you can use the GitLab interface to leave inline comments. Let's say, for example, we want to use Claude Sonnet instead of V2. We can add that as an inline, just like any review. And then we heard some feedback from the front end. It would be great if it was XML tagged so we could parse it better on the front end. So we'll add that as well. And you can then add QDev again directly from the MR and keep iterating on this idea, reducing the friction and time it sort of takes to explore and making it cheap to kind of experiment. Now, in a few minutes, we get back this update, and we can take a look at the diff. What's really cool is the agent is aware enough not to touch anything that was good. So the diff is only touching the XML changes we asked for. You can see updating and making a nice readable change. And what was really cool is it took my Claude Sonnet requirement and turned it into the appropriate Bedrock model ID. And so with that, we have one last thing, which is our tests. Because again, we're working inside of this environment where we have all of our policies already codified and designed. So we can see here now those tests, along with the existing project tests, are being executed directly inside of GitLab. And when they finish, in this case, passing, perfect, we'll go through. And now you have this test report in GitLab that contains both the existing tests and our new ones, and are there. As you continue to build out this project over time, you're keeping your tests up to date as you go. And so that looks pretty good. The front-end team now can pick up that API and do some hacking to make it work on the UI. So here we have our summary, generate summary, calling that actual prompt. And it comes back, probably needs a little formatting, but we've got our different sections. So there's just a quick look at how, without even leaving the tool chain, you can quickly just experiment on an idea and reduce the time it takes just to see what's possible.
GitLab Duo and Amazon Q brings AI agents into your team's existing workflows with the same guardrails and checks that everyone on your team uses already. Idea to contributing code, that's just one of the AI agents that we're offering. Your teams can also modernize legacy Java 8 and 11 projects from within GitLab. They can get feedback earlier with AI-driven reviews and improve code quality with unit test generation. But really, this is just the start of GitLab Duo and Amazon Q. And we're incredibly excited to bring this preview to our GitLab Ultimate self-managed customers. And it's available now on a public branch.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kyle. All right. Again, let's come back. So Amazon Q is going to help you operate your applications. You saw how it can help you from all the early phases. It can even practically analyze billing information and trends to give you cost insights and help you diagnose operational issues. You can start to ask questions like, what are my costs forecasted for the rest of the month, which is pretty exciting. And Q will provide explanations with references, so you can click in and see what's driving those recommendations and insights. Now, we're also adding a Diagnose with Amazon Q button to quickly troubleshoot and resolve issues directly in the AWS console. Now, we wanted to transform the way ops teams work and bring together Q's expertise in services and resource management and your specific account context, which Q is the only assistant that has that actual live account context. So the next thing we wanted to talk about is transforming cloud incident management. So this is a key ops issue I think has happened to all of us, unfortunately at inconvenient times. And when you're down or have issues, minutes and seconds really matter. You want to get that app back up and operational so your customer experience is intact. And when an incident happens, you can spend a lot of time actually digging through and wading through, trying to find those operational insights and identify the anomalies, and sort of try to connect the dots across the different signals that you're getting. And it's a pretty tedious and error-prone process. So earlier in the week, we announced that Q Developer can now accelerate operational investigations, enabling operators of any skill level to investigate, find the root cause, and resolve operational issues. And this includes automated runbooks and empower operators of all experience levels to get really good at operations. So with that, I want to show it to you and invite Nikhil Dewan up, the head of products, CloudWatch and AI Ops, to give you a demo of this. Hi, Nikhil. Right on.
Thanks, Adam. So let's start with a quick show of hands. Who here has gotten paged in the middle of the night to respond to some sort of a production issue? All right. Unsurprisingly, that's a lot of us. Well, I'm really excited to show you this new investigation capability and how it can help you accelerate your operational incidents so that they don't keep you up all night. So for today, imagine that I'm a junior developer on a team that operates an application that is widely used by pet clinics. This application helps the clinics manage their bookings, maintain the pet records, and handle other essential tasks that go into running a clinic. Now, I am fairly new to the job, so to be honest, I'm not an expert on all the components of my application. Unfortunately, I'm also on call this week. It's 2 a.m. at night, and I just got paged to respond to an issue on my visit service. And as a pet owner myself, I know the feeling of desperation when I can't quickly get an appointment for my little Murphy. So I pull open my laptop, and I see the page is because an alarm fired, highlighting a drop in availability for the book visit operation for our pet clinic customers. Now, that's not good, since a drop in availability prevents my customers from being able to schedule pet visits. And since this is a multi-tenant service, it's possible for one customer to negatively impact the experience of all my customers. So it's really important for me to get the system back to a stable state. Now, when this happens, I usually spend a lot of time digging into various dashboards and telemetry signals across my application to try and find out what happened. However, this time I have a new teammate helping me, Amazon Q Developer Operational Investigations. And oh, my friend Q is ready to jump in and help, even at 2 a.m. So as soon as my alarm fired, Q Developer started working. It learns about my application architecture, looks for anomalies across my telemetry, and identifies recent deployment and configuration changes. Now let me jump from that alarm to the new investigations experience in CloudWatch. Amazon Q Developer has already come up with a potential hypothesis for the root cause of this issue. Q has identified that the DynamoDB table in my service experienced throttling and capacity issues due to an increase in requests from one of my clinics. Now, maybe it's allergy season in the Pacific Northwest, and a lot of cats are getting the sniffles. Q also identified how this impacted my end customer experience by causing failed operations on the service that handles customer visits. So I want to understand how Q arrived at this conclusion. So I click on Show Reasoning. I quickly validate some key signals that Q has surfaced. I see increased latency and error on key metrics in my applications, a graph that shows the DynamoDB table that stores visit data experienced throttling events, and that during the time, the provisioned capacity of the table was lower than the consumed capacity. And there's also a spike in requests from one specific tenant, or a customer clinic in this case. This process helps me verify and build trust in the suggestion from Amazon Q. I'm happy with this hypothesis, and I click Accept. So now that Amazon Q Developer has helped me find the specific problem that one of my DynamoDB tables is getting throttled due to a spike in requests, what exactly am I going to do about it? Q Developer surfaces a few next steps I could take to resolve this issue and think more holistically about how to scale my application to prevent it from happening again. But it's 2 a.m. I'm tired, and my immediate priority is to bring the service back to a state where customers can book their appointments again. Q Developer surfaces an AWS automated runbook to scale my table's write capacity, and I go ahead and execute it. I will be revisiting this investigation in the morning to follow up on additional actions that Q had suggested, including chasing down what actually led to that spike from one of my clinics. So I wait a few minutes, and now we can see that the alarm has gone back to green. So what I just showed you was how I quickly went from being paged on an alarm on my application to identifying and understanding the root cause. That is, my application front end was impacted by the availability of my visit service. And that was caused by the DynamoDB table backing that service getting throttled. And all of this was because there was increased load from one customer. And then I went on to deploy a fix, all in the matter of a few minutes. So with this new Q Developer operational investigation capability on your side, I really hope it makes your next on-call period just a little bit easier. Thank you. Back to you, Adam.
Cool. I learned a lot. When you put this on your side, and you have this on your side, on-call is going to get easier. I learned a lot looking at this. So let's move to the last part. There's like after you build the application and you go away for years, there's this new long process of migration and modernization. And these projects could take months or years, and they might not ever get completed because of their complexity. You know, there's a lot of different steps, a lot of different teams involved, and a lot of different tools involved. So we took this, looked at it as an opportunity to look at the whole process end to end, all the manual tasks involved with the discovery, the planning, mapping and building the infrastructure, migrating the application, migrating the data, refactoring the code, provisioning accounts, all the different things that need to happen. And we saw this as an opportunity for a real breakthrough in innovation. So you saw this week, we announced that QDeveloper is now the first to offer AI-assisted migration and modernization, and it's a new web experience for large-scale transformation projects. Now, it includes over 17 years of AWS accumulated best practices. There are multiple autonomous AI agents in there and domain-specific knowledge bases. So we got to work expanding QDeveloper's capability to streamline the whole process, guide you through the stages, and automate tasks for even complex transformations. So let me show you some examples of that, talk about some of the examples of that. Java version upgrades can now be completed in a fraction of the time. And we're seeing customers upgrade production applications. What would have taken months to do it in days. Now, we've been really happy with the success with that. And so we've started exploring how QDeveloper could accelerate other migration and modernization projects. So earlier this week, we announced we've extended QDeveloper's transformation capabilities to include .NET, mainframe, and VMware workloads. You can now perform transformations on up to hundreds of Windows.NET applications to Linux at the same time, accelerate the transformation process by up to 4 times faster, and you're going to save a lot of money, up to 40% reduction in software licensing costs as you move to Linux. You can modernize VMware environments to EC2, which is important for many of you, and accelerate modernization of mainframe applications. Now, QDeveloper simplifies projects by allowing teams to interact with agents using natural language. And these agents are going to analyze the existing software systems. They may not have any documentation. We've seen a lot of that. Propose modernization plans, and then upon approval, execute the transformations and keep your team informed while you do it. You can run these workloads natively now on AWS and get better scale and performance, and add our 200+ services for new capabilities and innovation. Okay, so I think you've seen how AWS is really pushing forward with the transformation of how developer workflows are going to change using AI agents. All these different tasks in that whole life cycle, like implementing features, testing, reviewing, writing documentation, and now even this large-scale code transformation and modernization effort. So it's a pretty exciting world ahead of us where agents are going to be there by our sides as we do our jobs. And they're going to play a kind of an important role in software. Autonomous planning, complex workflows. You saw with these slash commands, more specialized agents are now being brought right to your fingertips in the way you work. It's not just chat. It's really like a directed autonomous agent. And I think it makes sense. No individual developer knows all the APIs and all the code bases and every domain-specific language and all the nuances of architecture and best practices. And I think agents are going to help us bridge those gaps. And agents are going to evolve. They're going to do more sophisticated tasks. They might do things offline, async, like we're seeing in workload in the transformation capability. So it's a pretty exciting time. But I also understand it's a time of some uncertainty. Like, what does this mean for us as developers? Developers are going to be working in whole new ways. So I really want you to hear this from us. We want you to be fearless in this time of change, and we want to bring together the resources and the community that you need so we all together can navigate through this change. We're not AWS, as you've seen by the amazing group of humans and companies and partners and developers that are here. I think we're more than just a cloud provider. We're the hub, a hub of innovation and collaboration. Our events, workshops, online resources, all of this is to foster an environment where developers can keep learning and growing. This year, as an example, we booted up the AWS GenAI Lofts, a collaborative space where developers can have meetups, and our partners are in, our community was in, getting hands-on with new technology and really connecting and seeing what the latest startups have to offer. We did 225 events More than 13,000 people come through. Many of you were through at 6 cities around the world, and we're going to keep doing more of this. And then one other thing that I think is really important in this journey is that we all really embrace and continue to support open source. Open source is a lot of what's making this happen, this coding in the public, and it's like your first port of call when you want to tackle a hard project is to use open source. So AWS continues to work to be a responsible steward of open source by actively engaging in projects like PyTorch and OpenSearch and Valkey. For the past 5 years, AWS has delivered 31 different managed open source services to make it easy to set up and run open source workloads at scale. And lastly but not least, AWS has an amazing global community of builders. Some of them are here in the room. Thank you for coming. And they are experts who give advice and guidance, not just about code, but career and mentoring and all these amazing resources. Heroes and community builders, our user group leaders, our cloud club captains, the next generation coming. It's an amazing resource to get help, get mentored, learn new things. 600 active developer user groups around the world. Now, we're trying to also bring that to all of you digitally, and we'd encourage everyone here to join our Builder ID community, and where you can get the training resources, connect, troubleshoot, access to more than 600 free AWS courses in Skill Builder, and get Q Developer for free with your Builder ID. Please sign up. There's a QR code if you want to take a picture. Okay, so with that, I think we're at a moment where there's like a lot of change happening all at once. I think you've seen that AWS has got some pretty exciting new tools, how we're being thoughtful across the whole end-to-end lifecycle. And I think just ultimately, we're doing this together. We're on a journey in this moment of change together. We're excited to see all the things you've built and the boundaries you will push. Thank you for coming to this session. I'm super excited to see what you build. Please take a minute and give us feedback on the session. And thanks, everybody, for all your feedback and energy at reInvent. Cheers.